Welcome to this interactive, but still just reading a letter and discussing the points in it and things that we've seen from the letter from the chairman. Brought to you by me, but what the actual writing is from Chris Roberts himself and the CIG team, I'm sure, that helped give input on this letter before it was released. I have read a little bit of this. I will kind of, so to speak, react to it, but at the same time, I have read one of the big surprises in my. When I get to it, I'll point out why I believe this letter was released, especially now. So we start with a quote: "What we do now echoes in eternity." Marcus Aurelius. So 2023 marked the beginning of a transformative chapter for Cloud Imperium and both of our games. With Alpha 3.18, our first release of 2023, the team delivered Persistent Entity Streaming, PES, the foundational tech that is necessary for server meshing, SM. As we mentioned in the last letter, PES is the hardest part of the work needed for SM and is the one that required the most engineering, so overcoming the challenges with this release last year was mission critical. The launch of Alpha 3.18 was far more challenging than we anticipated, and we discovered some issues with our backend database that only were visible at the scale we see on the live release, as opposed to the Persistent Test Universe, PTU. Outside of this, we uncovered a lot of little issues that come from a truly persistent universe. While it is amazing to come across a wreck from a player combat a week ago, it is not so fun to try and land at a hangar where the last 3 ships crashed and left debris laying around, blocking your landing pad. We slowly worked through these issues and others, but it was challenging time both for the development team and the community. These obstacles not only tested our skills and determination, but also demonstrated our resilience as we overcame them. Beyond PES, 2023 welcomed the long-awaited implementation of salvage, encompassing hull stripping, structural, component, and repair, accompanied by relevant missions. Traders reaped the benefits of an overhauled, no pun intended, and physicalized cargo system, while players across the board enjoyed many new missions spanning both PvE and PvP scenarios. Our development journey reached a series of significant milestones last year, all of which took center stage at CitizenCon 2953. The magnitude of this event for everyone at CIG cannot be overstated, especially considering it marked our first in-person CitizenCon in over 4 years. We have been powered by all of your excitement since the very beginning of the journey, and we've missed the energy that comes with spending time together, sharing our mutual excitement about what we're building. The show was an incredible affirmation of all our hard work, both on Star Citizen and Squadron 42 in 2023, and kicked off our best Q4 ever in terms of player logins and engagement. Thanks to all of you, and a huge wave in Q4, 2023 was our best year ever, with recent highs in daily active players, monthly active players, unique logins, and hours played for the year. More than 1.1 million of you set foot in the Persistent Universe in 2023. The other major milestone in 2023 was welcoming the team at Turbulent fully into the CIG family. Our partners since the end of 2012, Turbulent have been responsible for large parts of our online infrastructure and have greatly contributed to our growth and success. This acquisition allows us to streamline our efforts and formally gives us a significant presence in Montreal, Canada, which is a hotbed of video game talent. As part of this acquisition, we gained 2 key senior executives, Benoit Buzajor, the Chief Technical Officer of Turbulent, who now becomes the CTO of Cloud Imperium, and the head of our core technology group, CTG. You already know Benoit from his presentations on our server meshing plans at the last 2 CitizenCons. The second key executive to join our ranks is Marc Bedout, who was the CEO of Turbulent and becomes our Senior Vice President of Studio Operations, in charge of the operations and welfare of thousands plus people working on Star Citizen and Squadron 42, spread between our 5 offices in Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Manchester, England, Frankfurt, Germany, and now Montreal, Canada. As I look back at 2023, With a few months now to reflect and appreciate the hard work of the team around me, I can say that our experience at CitizenCon 2953 and the excitement from our community, both at the show and in the game, as they logged into the Star Citizen in record numbers last year, left me feeling not only proud, but also deeply grateful and reinvigorated for the year ahead. Okay, this is me now. So, what I believe is being said by CR here is very on point for 2023. And what we've seen in the past with these, you'll see that the next part of this letter will go into where we're going. So, that was where we came from, building energy from the last letter and the year in review, kind of just by, I think, because of where it is in the time frame. And then this is going straight into 2024 and what the excitement is in the future. Now, I apologize for the name pronunciations. For what it's worth, I don't think I have ever even tried to say last names of anybody who works at CIG, aside from like crew. And I am notoriously bad at pronouncing names. So I apologize. I apologize. Turbulent, I love you folks. I've covered a lot of your content all the way back during the hospitals that were being brought into the planetary landing locations. And I appreciated that you gave me a nod, towards my coverage of that. And it was really cool to see that kind of inner working and your appreciation of my work. And for what it's worth, I greatly appreciate your work. That's the whole reason I cover it. It's not just because it's exciting and new. It's because it truly shows the care and the love that goes into all the work. And yes, I mean those words. I believe Turbulent is truly, they've always, to me, been one of the best parts of the PU development. And I am so happy to see them in. And that's my words, not from the letter. And the letter, of course, affirming that. CR is the chairman of CIG, noting that publicly on their side is really cool. So from my side, from the community side, I think I'm not alone in saying it's great to see Turbulent be brought into the fold. If you weren't aware, what he's talking about here is that Turbulent was brought in as a formally under the CIG banner as a gaming studio. Before that, they were like picking it up as contract work. They were trying to do other work at the same time. So I understand, or at least they were able to, or something like that. And this is like just the pure commitment to this game universe. So being able to work on, the Star Citizen and of course Squadron 42 is needed, but Turbulent has heavily always been in the persistent universe, the PU. And at one point, most of their staff were that I've heard from anyway, and I've seen on the shows and I've seen talking about the game were PU. So that was really cool. And for those who don't know that, Persistent Universe is the actual multiplayer game, where Squadron 42 is the single player game. And what's also mentioned in here is the Persistent Test Universe, the PTU, which is our test side of the PU. So translation, in general, real quick, it goes internal testing, then it's quote internal testing end quote with the evocati who sign NDAs, which can now talk about their work but can still not show video, and there's certain other limitations. And then it goes right into the persistent test universe or the experimental PTU, or a tech preview to test a specific thing that they need to change. So they'll take a stock build, but then they'll change something that they want to learn about and see if it's going to break everything on its own. But in general, the PTU kind of means all those different things. So if you see PTU, that in general is that testing phase of it before it hits your persistent universe. And those who go in there, you file your issue councils, you check out the things, you all help with the testing process. So that's what they're referring to with PTU. Now, I want to go back here to Alpha 3.3.18 and to think about that it was the first release in 2023, and that's mind-blowing to me how far we've come. We're on the doorstep of 3.23, going into testing, at least into full testing. And I mean 3.18 was only at the beginning of 2023. The speed of what we're seeing is very exciting, and it has to be, because as is noted here, they needed to fix issues on the backend database, and they needed to work on what they talked about being persistent entity streaming. And that's when the example the example CIG loves to say is, imagine you put a coffee cup down on a moon and then you fly away. The server shouldn't have to track that coffee cup if nobody's near it, but if you fly back there, you'll be able to find that coffee cup again. So that was the original sales pitch. And then you see here in this discussion, well, what about if there's 3 debris of wrecks in the middle of where you're supposed to spawn your ship? That's not very fun. So there's going to be limitations to PES, and that's some teething issues that we're going to find when it comes to this system. And then on the flip side of that, you have your server meshing. This is the idea that server to server, it will save states and move them back and forth. And there's a lot of underlying stuff. Yes, I know it exists. Yes, I know there's a lot of other things. I'm just keeping it exactly what's written here to explain it. And, you know, we're just starting to see server meshing testing that's like truly what I think some people consider actual server meshing with, like, you know, oh, we're going to have a shard and it's going to be server to server and jumping through from system to system, like as in like a star system to star system or parts of star systems. And that's all been discussed, but it's only just starting to be tested heavily on large numbers. So the PES part of it is essential because you can only have so many items loaded in that are near people as the ones that make sense to have loaded in. And then server meshing allows multiple servers to work together to move through. So if you go from one server to another and then you fly down to that moon, that coffee cup's still there, even though you may not even know you're on a separate server anymore, unless you had our display info up. But the whole point is that the server meshing and the PES are part of a larger litany of technologies that are being worked on the back end for server technologies in order to make the experience better for everyone. That's the deal. Now with all that out of the way, let's start digging into the part I strongly suspect many of you are here for, and that's what's to come ahead for 2024 and beyond. So we continue the writing of Chris Roberts in his letters from the chairman, 2024. And what a year it is shaping up to be. On Squadron 42, that is taking the game from feature complete to content complete, ensuring the game has the necessary polish and feels worthy of being the spiritual successor to Wing Commander. To this end, the team is hard at work, heads down, driving towards the finish line. I am incredibly excited about how the game is shaping up, and we will have more to share with you at this year's CitizenCon, which will be held in Manchester, England. On the Star Citizen front, the teams are preparing to deliver server meshing and expanding the universe of Star Citizen to multiple star systems. One of the key milestones of human achievement in the lore of Star Citizen is First Jump Day, when legendary human astrophysicist and pilot Nick Croshaw discovered and navigated the first jump point on April 10th, 2071, and became the first human to visit a planetary system beyond Sol. Eventually, that system was named Croshaw in his honor. His journey was described as the jump that changed the course of humanity and led to the star-faring future we depict in Star Citizen and Squadron 42. You might be wondering why I'm telling you this story. Well, a little ahead of the historic date of April 10th, we had our first Jump Day celebration on Star Citizen's Tech Preview channel this weekend. For this test of our progress on server meshing and the replication layer technology, we opened our first functioning jump gates and allowed players to test traveling between 2 systems for the first time in our history. Players were able to travel between Stanton and Pyro wormholes, with each system streaming in and out seamlessly. For those of you interested, our Versus' own Nick Croshaw honor goes to an Evocati member named Mr. Trash, who we believe was the first in the community to successfully jump. During the test, it was worth highlighting that we also achieved 350 concurrent players in a single shard, which is a replication layer with 2 connected servers, setting a new record for concurrent players in a single instance in Star Citizen. After many years of hard work towards a goal many thought was impossible, we are on the cusp of delivering one of the final pieces of technology that will enable a connected, shared universe that thousands of people can experience together at the same time. I invited Benoit, who oversaw this historic test as our new CTO, to share a few thoughts about this monumental milestone he helped bring to fruition. As the new Chief Technology Officer at Cloud Imperium, I am thrilled to join the CIG team and lead our technology group. We're dedicated to pushing boundaries, and I'm honored to represent and care for this team of pioneers and trailblazers. One of my first initiatives as CTO was establishing the Technology Preview Channel. It's a space where developers can fearlessly test large technology changes with players way before they go live, fostering the spirit of open development within our community. In 2024, our server meshing journey is hitting its stride after years of dedication. We're close and on the original vision we set out to achieve. This journey started long ago with the introduction of streaming capabilities to Star Engine, like client-side object container streaming (OCS), followed by server-side object container streaming (SOCS), SOCs, and progressing to persistent entity streaming (PES) to maintain the entire game world. Every step has been building towards our goal to support an MMO-level populations in a high-fidelity game environment of large magnitude. We are gearing up to release this replication layer in 3.23. This is a big deal. It's the foundation we build the mesh on. As a player, you should perceive this specifically when dealing with server crashes, aka 30Ks, as those will no longer cause immediate disconnection, but gracefully recover, allowing you to continue to play. For developers, this milestone marks the true separation between the simulation and the replication, a humongous achievement for the game and for Star Engine. But hey, we're not hitting pause here. We're charging full steam ahead towards launching our first multi-server mesh in 4.0. For this, multiple servers work together to simulate parts of the universe. As a player, this will enable you to visit Pyro through the jump gate, where the jump tunnels transition seamlessly between game servers. Game shards will also host more players, so you can encounter more friends or foes along the way. This will mark a new beginning for our game architecture. In the coming weeks and months, get ready for more technical preview tests with various mesh configurations, multiple game servers per solar system, and seamless transition without gates. We're talking about layouts where servers are dedicated to entire planets and moons. Others focus solely on landing zones or other key locations, with plenty of higher player count experiments. I'm genuinely proud to be part of this team. While we face challenges ahead, I'm filled with relentless optimism, knowing that amazing successes are waiting for us. Salute. Benoit, the new CTO. So, I wanted to stop here for a moment, and this is me again. And I wanted to cover this because it keeps going, but this is a critical part here. So, this is with Benoit taking over as CTO, it kind of sets the tone for what is his goals for his teams. And we often use the term pillars with CIG and the old school term. He is basically a prominent pillar now, right up there with the ship teams, right up there with the feature teams and such. And it's honestly beyond that if you're just talking about servers. This chief technical officer is going to be able to tell everybody what they need to know in order to get their jobs done. Now, I am not an expert on CTOs, but I want to tell you that a chief technology officer is somebody who can get a lot done, and it's great to see somebody with the passion that Benoit has in this role. And more importantly, there's already results. So we're not just seeing promises being made and nothing to show for it. We're seeing that there was the goal of expanding the universe of Star Citizen into multiple star systems. And we're going to roll through with a target destination. The target desto, as we would say back in the Eve days, is going to be this year's CitizenCon. So a lot of this is going to be shared with the community at this year's CitizenCon, and they're going to want even more live test and more testing and testing and testing to show at CitizenCon instead of just more promises, because there's a lot of promises made in the 2023 CitizenCon just a few months ago. And now we're seeing some of that come to fruition. We're still waiting on the hangar stuff and a lot of the stuff for the beginning of the persistent hangar technologies that we wanted to see in 3.23. But in general, this is the other side of the coin, being able to start linking up Pyro and other systems and being able to put large amounts of players in these places. Now, how is that done? Once again, back to the thing we started this topic. This letter kind of has a theme throughout it, server meshing. The answer is server meshing. So you can see he mentions a single shard and in his example, a replication layer with 2 connected servers. But in general, that's not a limitation forever. There's probably going to be shards that have many servers or virtual servers where it's pretending to be 6 different servers, if that's going to help in any way, shape, or form, that are all on one super actual serious piece of hardware server. Whatever way works best, and that's going to be the decisions that this man makes in this role. And once again, he seems to be on the right track with the success rates, as he noted the 350 concurrent players on a single shard, with the Evocati tests, and that seems to be the direction. I would note that regardless of what waves you come from or how long you've been in here or whatever role you play in the community, having more of the community be able to experience these is absolutely mission critical. So to me, if it's just Evocati experiencing these changes, it's like it didn't even happen, honestly. It's like, oh, that's cool. A random player is going to say, I'm going to go play War Thunder. I'm going to go play Helldivers or whatever the new hotness is, Pal World, whatever, or some other MMO, whatever. Whereas if you suddenly opened it up to all backers, or at the very least multiple waves of backers, and then all the subscribers, et cetera, because that's the direction they want to go. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's the direction they want to go with the waves. But then all of a sudden, more of the community is experiencing this moment, experiencing this as part of it. As a reminder, also, the higher waves are people that participate more in the issue council. So those who aren't in Evo, but they are still active in testing, both in testing itself and then filing with ICs, get put up in the higher waves. So in general, opening it up to more waves is that's a slam dunk to me on the next testing phase, is to get this back onto the test server like they mention, and then actually putting that tech preview into multiple additional waves. That would be truly the jumps that change the course of humanity, to use their own quote from Croshaw, and kind of adapt it to what we're experiencing here. Because anybody who's not in Evo, first jump day didn't mean jack squat. Mr. Trash and all his adventure probably flying backwards through the gate, if the accounts that everyone is saying is to be believed, doesn't really matter to anyone outside of Evo. And these are wonderful tests to say that these are here, but proof is in the pudding, and players want to experience this themselves. The ones willing to do the testing should be able to get in there and make the jumps. And then they can truly experience, oh, wow, this is something. It truly connects in their mind about what this is. That's my opinion. That's what it is. And I mean, I would root for everybody. I guess I'm notorious for that even somebody with an Aurora should have access to the test server immediately. That just got an account 5 days ago and he's got a discount starter pack. It's like, if you're a backer, you should have access to the test server. Everyone should have access, and then prove that you shouldn't have access. It's always been my opinion. But hey. The letter continues. As we set our sights on the year ahead, the team remains focused and committed to ushering the community into uncharted territories with the release of Pyro and Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. I cannot stress how much this is an inflection point, as it will allow many more people to play together, but also to seamlessly travel to different star systems. All of this points towards 2024 being our biggest and best year in the universe of Star Citizen. But Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 is not our final destination. And with that, I have more exciting news to share. As we revealed at CitizenCon with Squadron 42 achieving feature complete milestone, we are now able to bring features developed for Squadron 42 to the persistent universe at an accelerated rate. As part of this, towards the end of the year, we decided to reorganize the Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams to be more integrated, to facilitate bringing several years' worth of feature work and polish to Star Citizen, and finally set our sail out for Star Citizen's own finish line. While we recognize there is no definitive finish line in an online MMO, and that we always will be adding new features and content for many, many years to come, Star Citizen 1.0 is what we consider the features and content set to represent commercial release. This means that the game is welcoming to new players, stable and polished with enough gameplay and content to engage players continuously. In other words, it is no longer alpha or early access. Much like we planned out Squadron 42's drive to feature complete and upcoming content complete status, we spent significant time looking at what Star Citizen 1.0 means and what it would take to get there. To facilitate this, I am pleased to share that we have our very own Rich Tyrer will be taking on a new role as senior game designer, overseeing both the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 alongside me. With this change, you'll see more rapid expansion of features and content coming from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen, starting with Alpha 3.23, which is shaping up to be one of our biggest releases to date in terms of new features getting into players' hands. When we announced at CitizenCon that we were bringing our feature work and developed and refined and the push to feature complete for Squadron 42, we were not kidding. As game director on Squadron 42, Rich played a crucial role in helping steer Squadron 42 to its current feature complete status. Under his stewardship, Squadron 42 experienced a significant surge of progress, a momentum we fully anticipate will continue to carry us towards content complete, beta, and release. Rich Tyrer states, "Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to say how great it is to be back working on Star Citizen. Some of you already know me, but I was the core gameplay pillar director before I moved over to become the game director of Squadron 42 a few years back. With this new role, I will be coming on board to help push Star Citizen to the next stage of its development, ultimate culminating in leaving early access and releasing the 1.0 version of the game. This begins with identifying what features and content are required to create a new, fully realized space MMO, while laying the foundation for future updates. To be 100% clear, though, this doesn't mean going back to the drawing board or totally changing the vision of what SC currently is. With this aim, Chris and I have overseen the creation of a roadmap that takes us all the way to 1.0 and outlines all the features and content we need, and just as crucially, the ones that will come post full release. With my role now overseeing both projects with Chris, and the fact that Squadron 42 has hit its feature complete milestone, it has provided me an opportunity to reshuffle the teams. This would see a large contingent of gameplay teams now coming back to focus on SC. We've also taken the opportunity to move away from heavily specialized teams like actor feature and vehicle feature to be more generic gameplay teams that should allow us to be a lot more flexible and shoulder some of the heavier burdens these teams used to carry. While these teams would still be instrumental in shipping Squadron 42, they will now be focused on bringing all the existing features over to SC, as well as working on brand new features like base building and crafting to help round out the 1.0 experience. With every release going forward, the intention is to move ourselves closer to that end goal. So you should expect to see large updates each quarter with many changes to systems that have not been touched in a long time, like economy, assurance, etc., alongside a whole suite of quality of life improvements, things like inventory, missions, mobiGlass, etc., coupled with totally brand new features and content. We have set very ambitious goals for ourselves, initially working internally on both the games and technology teams, but Chris and I truly believe they are achievable, and hopefully you can start to see that progress starting with 3.23 and beyond. Working in tandem, Rich and I, back to CR's letter, will continue to establish the strategic vision to bring to life the intended Star Citizen gameplay experience. As Rich said, over the past few months, our teams have been busily planning the upcoming major milestones for the persistent universe, culminating in what we refer to as Star Citizen 1.0. As that roadmap comes together and becomes validated, we look forward to sharing with you both its vision and executional plan later this year. As part of this development reorganization, we have made some few significant changes. From a personnel standpoint, I have moved to Austin, Texas from Los Angeles to be closer in time zone to our main development operations in Manchester, Frankfurt, and Montreal. I am spending significant time at our largest studio in Manchester, which almost 600 staff, as I sit with Rich and the teams working towards completion on Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. As part of this, we have made the difficult decision to ask the Los Angeles development team, which had increasingly been provided support for the main development teams based in Manchester, to relocate to join other teams, primarily in Manchester, but also in Austin and Montreal. Los Angeles, while shrinking, will still be an important office for the company, but one focusing on business support roles with marketing, finance, legal, and HR. As part of this reorganization, we sadly waved goodbye to the Persistent Universe Live director, Todd Pappy, as he moved back to the US from the UK last year for family reasons. And after much soul searching, I determined that we cannot afford to have this key role as a remote job from the main team in Manchester for a good portion of the year. It is a sad moment, as Todd worked diligently for the last 9 years on Star Citizen, making many important contributions and providing excellent leadership for his teams. I wish him the best of luck and look forward to see what he does next. I will miss the sunny skies and beaches of Los Angeles, but Star Citizen and Squadron 42 take precedence. The journey is longer and more difficult than anticipated 11 and a half years ago, but the final destination is so much more exciting and fulfilling. I would never, in my dreams, expected to have the opportunity to build something on the scale and ambition of Star Citizen, feel incredibly blessed by all of your support, and I am determined to finish strong. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to add the commentary here. Just like Chris, if you ever manage to hear this, I am also determined to finish this letter commentary. Okay, so this is the tale of three different people. So, first off, I want to give a nod to Todd Pappy. I can remember so many times his writings on Spectrum, trying to give words of encouragement and some clarifications on certain things, and his interviews on the different Star Citizen products that were put out on the official YouTube and Twitch are legendary. And a lot of that stuff's never going to be forgotten. I think his efforts are a big part of a lot of what we've seen. I do not think it's going to sink the project or something silly like that. I'm seeing some weird stuff being posted about losing Todd Pappy, and I wish him nothing but good luck with his next projects, whatever they may be. On to Rich Tyrer. Rich Tyrer is a all-star, I would argue, of the Star Citizen, right up there with Todd Pappy. And I am thankful that we still have him. You know, for every Todd Pappy or Paul Jones we lose, people like Rich Tyrer stick around, and thank goodness they do. I think he is a steady rock that they need for this project to kind of keep going. I can remember him being really the one that kind of set things straight during Death of a Spaceman. So when the vision was to have these, eventually your character will have to die. You can't just regen forever. And what does that mean? And is my stuff going to be safe? Is my character going to have a family? How does it work with losing items? How does this all work? People were panicking. And the worst part of all of this was the idea of lifetime insurance being the lifetime of your character freaked people out considerably. And Rich Tyrer, alongside Chris Roberts, were up there explaining it clearly and saying, no, you're not going to lose your stuff. No, we mean LTI means LTI, 10-year means 10-year. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your stuff when your character dies. Your character will regen multiple times, but they may start having little scars, especially if they're using lower gen regen capacities. You don't, and really showing the soul of the game, where there should be consequences for your actions, and you really don't want to die. And it means a lot to take another character, another player especially, out. It means a big deal. That was not widely accepted or praised or anything, and he weathered the storm. Now, right after that, about, I don't know, that was like a 2-year period, all through the adventures of 2020s. There was also this push of taking him out of the leadership role on the persistent universe. I don't know why he keeps calling it SC here, but basically he was one of the people running the persistent universe and one of the pillars, as he noted, handling a lot of the features coming into it. And they poached him for Squadron, and now he's back. But he brought Squadron with him. So this is nice to see it written in ink on the screen here in pixels, and in his own words, how he phrases it is well suited. He basically explains some of this, and Jared, I think, also mentioned this in recent Inside Star Citizens, but it's nice to see it fully confirmed in a letter to the chairman, and obviously Chris Roberts showing his support for this concept of bringing many of the resources from Squadron 42 over. And they all said it at CitizenCon, but a lot of things are said at CitizenCon, and then they have to be clarified and they have to be ironed out of what did that really mean. Like, for example, I think in this letter, why you keep seeing the words feature complete milestone and why they're wording it that way is to try to push what exactly that means. Because as we move from feature to complete into actually, I'm just going to keep it simple for you. Feature complete doesn't mean they're shipping the product. So what they keep leading to is that they're trying to explain there's another step in the way where to actually be fully complete and the actual game is being shipped to you. Just to try to avoid throwing 6,000 buzzwords at you tonight. And basically, a lot of those things that are feature complete still need a lot of work. And the teams that made them are the best people to handle that. So as Tyra notes here, they're shuffling teams, but they're still having them come back to the projects as needed for Squadron. And by having a single person that's kind of heading the helm here, at least on the game features, for both projects both parts of the project at the same time, this allows them to kind of toe into each side as needed. I have long advocated for 50-50 on what the project should be. I have well known for my bias about being pro PU and kind of not anti-squadron, but more of like, let's just see how this goes the first time and see how far it goes. And I really was not excited about it being a majority of development and efforts were going into Squadron instead of the PU for many years. But now we're seeing the reaping of the benefits of that. By bringing over a lot of the features that were developed and all that stuff that has been being quietly worked on for years and being clicked over in breakneck speed, which is wonderful. And finally getting Rich Tyro back on the PU doesn't hurt. So if this is the way it goes, this is the way it goes. So I wanted to kind of give that perspective. Now, on to the third person being discussed here. So we discussed Todd, we've discussed Rich, and now we're going to discuss Chris Roberts' position and also the role, kind of how all these studios are changing, kind of by his guidance. So I think Chris Roberts has noted in the past that he's not afraid to kind of step up for the game. I don't think anybody will ever suggest he isn't not just excited but passionate for the game. I think it's kind of this is his baby, and that for better or worse, that's it. And I've always said I've had confidence in his vision of this game. Sometimes I don't agree. No one's like I don't agree with every single thing that the direction they're going, that are obviously under his guidance, but a vast majority of it I is the direction I go, and that's why I love being part of this community. So when he sits there and he says that he's moving to a whole nother state in the country, the United States is a big place and it has multiple time zones in it. So by moving from LA all the way over to Austin, Texas, he kind of pushes him over. He kind of pushes himself like 2 time zones over, and it allows him to have like 2 more hours, whatever, over closer to what they're experiencing over in the European and Montreal time zones. Now, I'm an East Coaster myself, and in general, I'm closest to Montreal, I guess you could say. And East Coast in the United States kind of has a tradition of being like the stock traders and the business people get the early bird gets the worm type attitude. Whereas when you're minus 5 hours away across the country or something, it can be problematic to say the least to do business. because um, it's 5 p.m. on the East Coast. It's like noon over still on the West Coast. So because of that, it makes a lot of sense, not just for CR, but probably I'm guessing other staff that support him to move to Austin and try to kind of cut that down a little bit to help coordinate the time zones across the board. Years ago, I suggested LA should really not even really be a thing. Honestly, consolidate United States operations into Austin, Texas, especially because um, property values, especially as soon as you leave Austin and you're in the suburbs around it, like the business parks around it, are extremely, extremely low compared to anywhere in California. And you could even build whole buildings in Texas pretty cheap. So and you could have a sprawling campus and you could do a whole thing with it. Kind of have like a Manchester West if you really wanted to in the future. But I defer whatever their decisions are made. This is what they're doing. So, yeah, so marketing, finance, legal, and human resources are all sitting happily on the West Coast. And you have more of the deployment and some other ship and feature stuff going on in Austin, Texas. For those not aware, Austin has a decent chunk of the servers and things like that, the back end infrastructure and things as well. Um, for some of it, anyway. Now, the elephant in the room, though, after we got all that out of the way, is two other campuses that are truly in play right now. And I'm apologize that might not be the correct word, campus, but I'm kind of like the word right now. Um, Manchester, with over 600 staff already, is the beast in the room, and they have a lot of upfit they spent on that facility. They have a lot of money, as in money, as in resources, as in infrastructure, as in teams being established there, and that's kind of the de facto HQ, honestly, of CIG in a weird way, regardless if it says it on the paper or not. I mean, if you have the bulk of the staff and you have the brand new facilities and you have most of the capabilities, and everything, even like cultural things, like the final constant, the only constant, studio, for example, all there. It's mind blowing how much resources went into that. It took years to establish Manchester, no less. So don't forget that either. That to try to upfit another facility like that would cost dearly, and also in not just in money, but in getting staff to agree to work there and fill the place, but in time. And anybody who's established a large facility can tell you that there's always going to be issues of data runs and power issues no matter what you put together plan wise. It's you're going to have months of extra work that you have to work through. And the bigger, the more complex the facility, the more you're going to have to do. Not even talking about permitting and all the other things and code and inspections. So yeah, long story made short, I think Manchester is the elephant in the room here. And in a weird way, Montreal kind of brings up an interesting topic as well. Turbulent just got a few new staff. Turbulent just got added as a brand new campus. And I think that the only real thing they have, aside from obviously their long track record of supporting the PU and all the amazing work they've done for CIG already before they were truly in the family, so to speak, and they've always been in the family to me, but now they're actually under the umbrella of CIG in the holding company and such, as a proper development studio under them, just focused on Star Citizen and all of its wonderfulness. Um, they only have a few new staff that were added in, and there was a lot of discussion about the tech debt and concerns about getting people trained up, particularly on ship pipeline development, which is some of that stuff that Turbulent's getting into now. And it brought up an interesting thought, at least from my opinion, about where if turbulence if turbulence that small and has that much trouble integrating a few new staff, it brings up an interesting topic of like where are they in the grander scheme of things? Where you have places like Manchester with 600 plus staff. Now, obviously, not every single one of them is dev, but it brings up an interesting part. And I think that Montreal is going to stick around because of one of the key things they mention earlier in this letter about talent, the talent pool and the recruiting ability of people who want to live in these places. And that's probably the reason why Frankfurt, Germany is going to stick around for a long, long time too. So Sylvan and the rest of the amazing folks that work over there are also going to, I'm sure, going to be there for a long time, as long as they wish. Um, so I think that's kind of a story here. Is it might be one part of the secret sauce is by spreading out operations. There is extra cost, of course, but they can bring up these amazing talent pools that would otherwise not work for them. And I think Todd Pappy is an interesting highlight of what happens when you try to have somebody who's from another part of the world that suddenly has family concerns and other things. And once again, we wish I at least wish them all the best. And I'm sure they wish them all the best. Um, but at the same time, there is certain roles that are going to be to certain locations. And by having these development studios spread out, it can allow for more talent to stay and less risk of that type of situation where you lose good talent. Oh boy. But it is a sad day. It really is to see that go. So I will kind of wrap this up with this part here that's spoken in the letter. In a marathon, they say the last mile is the hardest, but to quote the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, what we do now echoes in eternity. I am looking forward to you getting your hands on Star Citizen Alpha 3.23 soon, where you will finally be able to experience many features we have been hard at work on for the past couple of years, which will then lead to the Invictus launch week in May. As a key lead up to Invictus, we have prepared a series of missions to earn UAE Civilian Defense Force stripes and potentially earn an incredibly powerful and unprecedented in game upgrade if you complete all of them. So, you are ready to face the Xeno threat in a more personal manner. Okay, I lied. There's one more section, but this is back to me. This is set up a firestorm, which I'm sure was intended, of folks that are saying, what in the world are they trying to say is this incredibly powerful and unprecedented in-game upgrade you can earn? And the most common one I've heard already people saying over and over again is it's an F8C or an F8 F7C or an F8C that can then be upgraded into an A. So for those who don't know, the C designation is the civilian variant that a lot of people already have. So you have F8Cs running around, you have F7Cs running around, the old Hornets, and probably you're going to see the Mark II coming out very, very soon, probably in weeks, probably. But they're already teasing it in the marketing, for goodness sake. But the next step would be getting an F7A upgrade or an F8A upgrade, which would be the military variant. Possible, incredibly possible. Both of the F8A and the F7A exist. They exist as military variants. The NPCs have them. You can't just spawn one. One guy actually has an F7A. He got it as part of a loophole in a thing. And anyway, it's a long story. But the point is that would be the most obvious possibility, is that you could earn a military fighter. And then, of course, the other one, the theory goes that's when you defeat Squadron, you can earn the right to have the other one or something like that. But there's another possibility here. They just had a big push for EVA technology. They just had a big push for FPS technology. So they're changing up weapons, scopes, the ability, how you literally move around when you're EVAing in zero G or low gravity. And it brings up interesting thoughts about, well, what if we had finally the quote Atlas end quote suit? And I'm sure it changed its name 50 more times because there's a chassis that the name's been used for other things. But anyway, if we had a mech suit, a small one that basically people can walk around in, that we've seen some previews of it many, many years ago, that would certainly be personal. You see that key word there, in a more personal manner. A mech suit would be able to go fight Xeno threat in a very personal manner, walking the halls and blasting everything in sight. Maybe even a new extra heavy armor set, because that's another thing that's being worked on. There's 5 different, according to Rich Tyler's own writing, there's 5 different types of armor, and one of them is going to be like the assault kit, basically the military kit. And What if you had the first true military armor that's like better than the other armor sets? And that would be the heralding in of these new armor sets. Suddenly there's a value to these suits, and this would be the first suit that you can't sit in a pilot seat in, for example. But the value of it obviously being that you can absorb far more damage, carry more ammo, whatever. Some combination thereof. That's possible too. So I wouldn't rile yourself up and get excited for this ship or not ship or type of thing, and just be happy whatever it is. It's a freebie to me as an in-game upgrade. And hopefully it's something you can earn in game, keep in game, not have to spend anything to get. If it is something where it takes your F7C or your F8C and turns it into an A, that would be very interesting, because now you got to talk about, well, if somebody buys that type of ship in game, can they then turn around and upgrade it? As right now, the F8C is you can't buy it in game with credits. So it's only buyable in the store when it's available. And of course, they would sell it again when this upgrade's available to sell them more of them. So, and just in case you're tuning in and you haven't experienced a Xenothreat yet, the idea is that this is a group of aliens who, simply put, group of people who hate aliens with a passion. Anything that's like an alien-based ship they see somebody flying around in theory, eventually they will be attacking. They basically have extreme hostility towards anything that is alien, and they can't stand it. So that's kind of the deal. And yeah, Xenothreat's a Xenothreat. And you can see this wonderful picture of the community, by the way, before I keep scrolling to finish up this letter. So that looks like Texas. See the Texas people. You can see these cloud periods. This is probably an Austin meetup right here. If I was to wager, this looks a lot like the New Jersey bar citizen I went to a while ago. It's really wonderful to see how big the community can get. And I mean, we've seen it all over the world, even out to Shanghai with over 5,000 people in attendance for that one. So if you do have a bar citizen near you, be sure to go into it, check it out. There's a whole section on Spectrum. I'll put it in the links below in the discussion to see different events in your area. So different countries, different parts of the world. There's plenty to see. Hopefully there's something near you. And if there isn't, try to start one. Okay, so back to the letter. The power of community. The driving force behind our success is our extended team, each and every one of you. Together, we have built a community that not only plays a crucial role in our development, but also embodies our shared passion for the Star Citizen universe. It is you who has propelled us forward. Without your passion, your willingness to test, to be undeterred by bugs and crashes, to be vocal with your thoughts, and stamina for the long and windy road we have, there would be no Star Citizen or CIG. You were there for the iconic helmet flip and the opening of the hangar doors for the first time in Alpha 0.8. Together, we explored the vast expanse of the persistent universe for the first time in Alpha 2.0, and you were on board for the inaugural planetary landing in Alpha 3.0. And soon, we will be leaving the Stanton system as we venture into the lawless wasteland of Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, thanks to server meshing. And beyond this, Star Citizen 1.0 twinkles on the horizon. The future has never been so bright, and I couldn't be more happier taking this journey with all of you. Chris Roberts, founder and CEO. Okay, commentary. So I kind of got choked up a little bit there, thinking about the planet. I don't know why, but what really got to me was the planetary landing. So I've been here since the beginning, and this was kind of something that I did on the side when I played Eve and some various other games over the years, and checked in on this project and kept coming back, playing with my hangar, with my Aurora LX, and then my Tally and stuff like that, and then eventually having those things. But the real one that set me straight was when we had the planetary landing locations. So in Alpha 3.0, when we had Lorville come in, and my buddy Spectre says it best, like, Lorville was terrible. It's trash. What are you doing? And I'm just like, no, this is home. Like, I still have a soft spot in my heart for Lorville. And because it was the first landing location. It was the first ground terra firma under my feet that I could log into and log off of, and I felt safe in. And yeah, no matter how many bugs there is, I stuck with this project, and I'm still gonna be here. When they talk about the Star Citizen 1.0, they're saying what he really means is 1.0.0 or yeah, basically. So it's adding that .0 at the end after the 1.0. So just in case you're trying to follow, because especially in this mention of 0.8, then 3, then 4, sorry, .8, then 2, then 3.4, and then why is it back to 1? It's 1.0.0, designating the jump from alpha, I guess, to beta or whatever they want to call it. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that there is a world to explore. There's a verse to uncover, and we're going to keep exploring it all together. And I, I think this is a wonderful letter. I think a lot of people didn't see this coming, particularly today, where there's just a wealth of other information that's been coming out, and the character creation updates that we've been seeing. But it's a very exciting time to be in the community. I hope this video caught you in good times, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to my long subscribers sticking around, as always. Give me some feedback on this. Another experimental one where I'm kind of reading it along with you, and I understand some people prefer these type of videos instead of having to read the walls of text. I get it when these things are delivered this way. Probably if this was a video as well as this letter, I probably would have just commented on the video, but because this was just a purely a letter standpoint, I kind of went through it. And yes, I'm kind of doing it live. I'm kind of just scrolling through. I'm kind of covering a lot of this in this way to kind of get it out the door, because this is exciting. This is great stuff. I understand that a lot of people want to see this in a timely nature. If I was to edit this together even harder than it already is, this, believe it or not, it's actually a lot of work because everybody here has different ways they write, especially these quotes. These quotes actually seem like they're real, straight from the person who said them. I'm sure they're edited and reviewed, but the way this is worded by Benoit, the way this is worded by Rich down here, and of course the way CR writes are different, believe it or not. So if you're looking for at least a little bit of anecdotal proof of like this is their honest words, I'm telling you that I've read a lot of lore writing and I start picking up on who wrote what. Sometimes I get lucky and I guess correct. And I've been getting better and better at that. And I'm telling you that there's multiple types of phrasing and voices behind these writings. So it's touching to see that the wording is coming from, at least my perspective, it seems like it's coming straight from the folks that are here. So all the best. And once again, all the best to Todd Pappy, and congrats to those who stepped up. Rich, welcome back. Benoit, welcome to an even higher part of the team. Keep being awesome, and please to all your team, please keep being awesome. And I apologize again for butchering your name. Eventually I will master it, I assure you, sir. All right. That's all I got. Take care, everybody.